I'm really happy to have this guy on the show this week. If you watched pro wrestling in the 80s, there's no way you didn't like this guy. He was one of the best heels of all time. He had one of the greatest gimmicks of all time, and he played it to the hilt. And not only that, he was an excellent in-ring performer. He could make bad wrestlers look miraculous. He bumped like a madman, and he's had a great career in pro wrestling, and he's just released his autobiography through the WWE. It's a pleasure to welcome him back to the show, the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. Ted, thanks so much for joining us again.
Absolutely, my pleasure, man.
Let's talk about the book right out of the gate here, Ted. I mean, you did an autobiography about 10 years ago,
right,
in '97, called "Every Man Has His Price." Why did you decide to do a second one?
Well, the first book was more. It was more of my spiritual journey than anything. It had some of the. I mean, there's obviously you can't tell your story without having some crossover material, but and everybody that read my first book enjoyed it. But the diehard hardcore wrestling fan, wanted more wrestling than they got, and so when I reestablished my relationship with the WWE a couple of years ago, and was asked to join their Legends program. They said, Ted, your action figures are one of our top 10 sellers amongst the Legends, and people are asking about it all the time, and your merchandise sells. So let's go back and let's tell your story again, but let's just try to focus primarily on your wrestling career, and that's what I tried to do here.
Nice. So was it something that you consciously wanted to do as well?
Yes, it was. And again, I wanted people to come away from this book with a better vision of what the industry of wrestling really is. As a kid growing up in wrestling, I had to put up with all of the barbs, wrestling's not real. It's almost like the assumption was if wrestling is not real, then anybody can do it. You guys aren't real athletes, all of that stuff, and that could be, there could be nothing further from the truth. If you're in our industry today, you ask the guys that end up getting invited to the WWE developmental program. It's like going to Marine Corps boot camp. And to be in shape the way that is necessary to be in shape to do what we do, and just the physical aspect of it. In reality, what a professional wrestler is that he's a sports entertainer. He's an athlete who's an actor, and if you're really good at this, then you are able to go out there and tell a story, and not only are you able to tell a story, you're able to do it on the fly.
Right.
And when you're really good at doing that, you can be a great wrestler. And that's what I wanted people to understand. And not only that, but I guess sometimes fans have this image of glamour because they see at these great big events in the venues, and you pull up in a Learjet or in a limousine, and you think, oh my gosh, that's the life. They don't understand that what we see is we see the world going by. What we know in every town is the airport, the hotel, the Coliseum,
yeah,
and the gym, and that's about it. The rest of it is because the pace is incredible. I'm sure that the young guys today think they've got a pretty tough schedule, but they don't have anything compared to what we did. When I look at this today and go, wow, man, these guys are working 4 days a week, getting 3 days off every week, unless they go on a foreign tour. That is tremendous. And but somebody had to pave the way for them.
Right. Well, and then you had to work the territories as well. And from what I've read in the various books, and the driving would have been enough to drive almost anyone crazy with the driving you would do in 1 week when you were working certain territories.
Absolutely. And I spent the better part of the first 12 years of my career in one of the worst in Mid-South. Unbelievable mileage. My goodness, it's just unreal. You could literally buy a new car and wear it out in a year.
Wow. Now, when you sat down to tell the book again and tell your story again, Ted, were there certain, was it, I'm guessing it would be kind of hard, because how do you gauge what you want to put in there and what you want to leave out?
Right. Well, and again, I just kind of felt my way along like I did in my career. It's like, what's important, what's not, and I would sit and talk to some of my buddies, and that would trigger stories. And the one thing that I get from the fans is we want to hear stories.
You're right.
We want to hear stories of, like, not necessarily, the in-ring stuff, but the outer ring, the backstage and those things. And I put several, I think, pretty funny stories in there. The aspect of the locker room, what it's like, the pecking order, back then, the respect that the younger guys had for the older guys. All of those things, I think, come into play, and as well as a lot of quotes from a lot of my colleagues. I don't know how many other books incorporated that, but the guy that helped me write this book, he said, I want you to tell your story, but then I want to get your peers to offer, insight as to, you're telling the story. Let's get somebody else that might have been there and see what they say about it. And so, and once the book was complete, because I didn't get a chance to see all of these quotes from all these guys until we almost had the finished product, and I was blown away.
Nice.
By my peers. There's nothing greater than to be honored by the guys that you work with.
Now, one of the things I think that fans also want in the books, you're totally right, they want like backstage stuff, they want stories about your fellow wrestlers, but now that it's known in the wrestling world how notorious you guys are for ribbing each other, people want to hear those rib stories, and I'm guessing it's got to be kind of hard to pick which ones to put in sometimes and which ones to leave out.
Well, and there's obviously some that you can put in and some that you can't. But and I'll be honest with you too. The other thing is, and I'm just not going to go there. I mean, some people want dirt. I mean, some people want to know, like all the dirt, And I know that even the publisher was like, okay, you talked about drugs and alcohol and infidelity and putting your marriage back together. Let's get some details. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I'll put it to you this way. I said, if my wife didn't want to know the dirty details, then the world at large doesn't need to know either. And I just, to me, that's, that shows no class at all. So, I guess, the tabloids, I guess, sell newspapers and what have you, but I'm just not going to go in there.
Right. Now let's talk about. We got to talk at least a little bit about the $1 Million Man gimmick because I was in high school in the '80s there and stuff when you were on the scene as Ted Dibiase, and all my buddies, we thought it was amazing. My big question, I guess, from reading the book is. Because the gimmick was presented to you as the one that if Vince McMahon was a wrestler, he would do himself, you must have felt amazing pressure for it to be successful. I don't know, not so much pressure as I was unbelievably blown away that I was chosen. I think Pat Patterson was the one who told me. He said, "Ted, Vince feels that you have the speaking skills and carry yourself in such a manner that you can pull this off." And that was based on, I guess, maybe seeing how I carried myself as just a heel. And I was always kind of an aloof, arrogant heel, and that's what this character was, the $1 Million Man. Right.
It was unbelievable. I knew I was just, I guess at that time, I was confident enough in my work to know that if I was given this opportunity, that I was going to run with it. There's always pressure. There's always, you don't want to fail. But I also knew that this being a pet project of Vince's, that he was going to pull out all the stops and do everything that he could to ensure that it got over. And again, it was, I tell guys all the time, getting into the industry, and I said, you have to be passionate about this. But regardless of how good you are, whether it's professional wrestling or Hollywood.